event that everybody joined on to is to hear Bill Wippert and all his stories and look at all his pictures. And I just had a little chat with him. This should be fantastic. But I want to welcome everybody. And Joni Shacken is on as well. She is in charge of the women's philanthropy this year as well. Thanks everyone for attending. Bill, I'll get to in a second. Shelley, I think you're on as well. And thanks to all the people who registered. The Buffalo Jewish Federation is happy to sponsor tonight's program. As many of you know, the Federation enriches our Jewish community locally, in Israel, and around the world on numerous levels, whether it be celebrating Jewish life, providing education, providing programs like the one this evening, inspiring members of the community to be involved and pass on the commitment and enthusiasm to our future generations. The Federation is committed to nurturing human capital while it develops and grows sources of funding, helping it to ensure that the Jewish community in Buffalo remains strong through the 21st century and beyond. Many of you on the program tonight generously donated to one of our newest initiatives, Dignity Grows. So Dignity Grows started in Hartford, Connecticut, and has become a national program. Our women's philanthropy group, chaired by Joni Shacken, established a local chapter to provide monthly donations, and I just lost my spot, but I'll get there again. To provide monthly totes filled with personal hygiene essentials to our neighbors in need free of charge. And some of you who were at one of our events at the JCC earlier this year helped assemble some of these kits. Through our current distribution partners, Jewish Family Services of Western New York, Haven House and Compass House, we supply these totes to get them into the hands of the most vulnerable people in our community, regardless of ethnicity, race, or religion. The program exists solely through generosity of individual donors like you. Each tote, by the way, costs $10. And I hear we assembled another 85, close to 100 from donations for tonight's program. At the end of the program tonight, as promised, we will have a random drawing for a picture. Instead of choosing a specific photo, Bill has generously offered to provide one of the pictures shown tonight. There's scores of them that you're going to see. The winner can select among those scores of pictures, so pay attention. You may have the opportunity to choose one of them if you're chosen for the raffle. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker, Bill Wippert. Bill is a native Buffalonian who began photographing Sabres games as a high school senior in 1975. He's been covering sports and other aspects of life in Western New York for basically a half century. He is the chief photographer currently for Pegula Sports Entertainment and the team photographer for the Bills and Sabres, documenting games and behind-the-scene activities. He spent 32 years with the Buffalo News covering the Bills' Super Bowl years, as well as politics, concerts, fashions, and yes, even blizzards. He is married, he has a daughter, he loves to play hockey and golf. We're gonna have several points in the talk, Bill told me, where there'll be opportunity to ask questions. And I think also at the end of the program as well. And after the question and answer, we'll draw the name from those who donated to Dignity Grows. So Bill, I'll let you take it away from here.
Well, I guess we're ready to go. Thanks for the great introduction, Gil. You did a great job there. If I ever have to introduce you at a medical conference, I would wish to do half that well. So thanks everybody for being here. This is a trip. This is really cool. He did a great introduction. Everything he said is true. I've been doing this a long time. Love what I'm doing. It's a privilege to be part of these teams and a part of Western New York that we all have such enthusiasm for. You know, to be up close and on the field and next to the ice for all these games over these years has been incredible. Like so many great moments, whether they were wins or losses, and the people I've met have been incredible. So we're going to take in a little tour of some of this stuff. It's going to be heavy Bills and Sabres and some of the other sports and things that we've done around here. You are free to ask some questions whenever you want. It's not a strict speech. I'm going to flow through some photos that we'll do a lot of old Sabre stuff first and then slide into some Bills. But I've got a couple of breaks in here for questions that are built into this. But if at any point you've got a specific question, don't be afraid to shout out, I guess, or to fill into the chat, okay? So since we are ready to go, let's do it. So just a quick little start here. I started, like you said, in 1975 shooting Sabres games. I was a high school senior playing hockey, loved the Sabres, and was granted a pass to shoot some games through the PR guy at the time, Paul Wieland. Amazing opportunity that he said yes to me as a kid. Never forget it. And from there, just kept, you just see some old pictures here, that things you don't see. Number one, that French Connection, there was a line that stayed together for many years. You don't see fights like this anymore. You don't see guys missing teeth like that anymore because they wear mouth guards. You definitely don't see people dressing up like that, like that in the odd and the lower goals. And something either happened. The goalies either used to be smaller or the nets were bigger, because you don't see that at hockey anymore. That's Jacques Cloutier, and that's a real goal, and that is really weird looking. You show that to modern goalies or goalie coaches, and they can't believe it. And then the old days of the Bills, the Bills getting trampled by the Dolphins for a whole decade until they finally won a game in 1980. That's Joe Ferguson. And then the Bills years where we were out of it, but then we got close. We got really close. We lost a big playoff game to the Cleveland Browns, and that's Rennie Hartman dropping a pass. So for some of you that are younger, you're not going to remember some of this stuff, but it's a good history lesson for you. Others will remember some of this stuff. And then eventually we made it to Super Bowls, and that was the fourth AFC Championship game there, where we thought, after losing 3 Super Bowls, here we go. We're going to go to our fourth in Atlanta, and maybe we'll win that. Or maybe we won't. And then we used to have a basketball team, a pro team, the Buffalo Braves. They played here for 8 years, and they left after their 1978 season. That's Randy Smith, who went to Buffalo State. And they all played in the Odd, which is an amazing building that many of us have great memories of, and some have terrified memories, those that sat up in the oranges. And then I keep doing it. It's my 47th season, I think, shooting the Sabres, just trying to make the games come alive, whether there were fans last year or fans back this year. And the Bandits, a great sport. If you get a chance to go to a game, you should. If you've never been to one, incredible energy, great action. And then as Bill's team photographer, I am in the fray. I'm in the middle of everything. Usually at least one practice a week, on all the road trips, on the team planes, on the buses, and in the huddles before the games. So we're going to start on a collection of old photos here from some football stuff. That is the 1990 Bills win against the Dolphins, and that is a lot of people on the field. So I jumped, to not be trampled, and to get a cool view, I jumped up into the stands, and just an amazing scene. And that used to happen a lot at games. Obviously, you can't do that much anymore. There were a lot of highs and lows in those Bills years. And we documented it all. I mean, obviously just, on the field, around the team, ups and downs. Randy, there's the picture you mentioned the other day. That's Don Beebe heading for a fall in Cleveland, bounced on his head. That's why these guys are paid well. He's one of my best friends from pro sports too. I'll talk about that later, but he's an amazing guy. And then the comeback against the Oilers. He faced the wrong way. You never know which way they're going to turn. You think if you're on the Bills sideline, he would turn your way, but he turned the other way. You just don't know, right? And a great celebration on that. And that was from a different game. It was like the crowd storming the field again from a win over the Jets, when I think Fred Smirlis blocked a field goal, and a crazy fog settled in over the stadium. They're passing the goalpost that they tore down, and past the upright of the goalpost. They pass it up to Ralph Wilson's box. Amazing. Played in some amazing weather. Steve Tasker, that's one of the coldest games ever. You can see the layers they've got on. The players had face masks and giant heaters, and the referees were trying to stand on the bench during all the timeouts. It was a championship game against the Dolphins. A lot of ups and a lot of downs. Even covered OJ my very early years. We'll leave it at that. And then on to the Super Bowls. Great personalities like Kelly and Marv in his prime. Just, we thought he was old then, and he's an amazing older gentleman now. Probably the coolest game I think I ever covered was the first AFC Championship game that we were in 1991 that led to our first Super Bowl. Beat the Raiders 51-3. We had about a 30-point lead at halftime, and the whole second half was a party because we knew we were going to be going to the Super Bowl. And that was a weird year because they didn't. There was no second week break, so that the next Sunday was the Super Bowl. So we left on Monday morning for Tampa. Great celebrations, a lot of good times in the championship games. The steam coming off of Bruce. These are all the film days. Some of the quality. These are copies from prints, from slides, from negatives. So there's some of these are third generation. That's the championship win over the Chiefs. Bruce Smith sacking Joe Montana, which sort of sums up the story. You're always looking to tell the story with these games, in one or two pictures, right? The locker room scenes after these games, just incredible. That would be before we went to Atlanta for the 4th Super Bowl visit. A young Bob Costas back there. And then we get to the other part, which is the Super Bowl games themselves, right? So here's the first one, Super Bowl 25 in Tampa, what would be the kick. And I spotted there's so many things going on at these moments. Like you're just trying to get your technology, what technology, film cameras, and just trying to make sure you had film in your camera and everything was right. But then I noticed that the guys were holding hands across the field, and Frank Reich is getting ready to get the snap, and I was able to get one shot. Don Beebe's on crutches there. He'd been hurt in a previous playoff game. And there's that. We know what happened there, right? Really had a feeling it was a great drive. Had a feeling we were going to win. And then you got to be ready to document the other end of it, which is the dejection of losing just because your team, I was covering all of this for the Buffalo News then. So it was our Buffalo team. I wasn't working for the Bills. I was with the Buffalo News. I had a great time covering the games for the News. And then another Super Bowl in Minnesota with Washington. We got beat in that one. And then the fans just showing it. And we went to LA and We Are the World and had a great halftime show, and Michael was there. But the Cowboys won that one and they won the next one. And you just keep documenting the dejection. It's really tough. You got to do your job. You're emotional too, right? I mean, you want to win. You want to be part of the celebration. You want to do your job and enjoy it. But just because your team loses, you got to keep going along. And you're not, Michael Irvin celebrating is not really the picture you had hoped to make, or that. So before we jump into the next section, let's see if you have anybody's got some questions. We're going to dig into some old hockey stuff.
Bill, I have a quick question. What was your greatest challenge transferring equipment from film to digital? How was that transformation?
Good question. And when it happened, it was general. It wasn't like like night fell and it changed. Like it was coming. You heard about it. I think Kodak thought it was going to take about 20 years for it to evolve, and it happened a lot quicker than that. For us, we didn't trust it at first. So we're talking around 2000, 2001. There were some early generations that, could handle it, but there wasn't a trust factor. When you're shooting important photos, whether it was just a 1 hour drive to do a portrait of somebody for the paper or do a Super Bowl game, you trusted film. There was a process that worked. So when it first came out, a lot of times on some simple shoots, you would try this newfangled digital camera, which, all the photos are on this little card, right? And you're like, okay, I'm just going to shoot some extra with this film camera just in case, because we didn't really trust it. But, within a year and a half or two, we trusted it. The quality keeps getting better and better and better, because the early versions were not great. They were nowhere near what film quality was. That changed quickly. And in the last 5 or 10 years, the digital quality is better in many cases than what you would ever be able to have done with film 20 years ago. So it was gradual, and it keeps getting better. But people need to sell cameras, and the camera, the best top of the line camera that I bought 4 years ago is not out of date. It's still usable.
Oh, thanks.
Yep.
There's
Bill,
a question.
oh, go ahead, Stacy.
I was going to say, we have a question from the chat from Craig Small. What are your settings at the hockey game? He likes to take pictures himself. He's an avid photographer as well. So I'm sure that's one of the reasons why he's asking.
Yeah, well, he'd be shooting. Most of the pictures I shoot now are with strobe lights, but I mean, the good digital cameras can be bumped up to high ISOs, 4,000, 5,000 ISO. So he should be, to try and stop the action, you need to be probably over 1,000th or 1,200th of a second to stop the action, and then just using your shallowest lens opening that lens allows. Open the lens up as wide as it'll go, and generally just crank up the ISO as far as you need to expose it properly. I don't want to get too technical because that'll bore a lot of people. But feel free to reach out if I can help you down the road. You can find me on Instagram. Anyone else before we jump into some hockey? All right, let's go.
Go.
Cool. So that's another picture of the French Connection. That was from the last game of the 1975 Stanley Cup Finals. Again, my first year. The Sabres lost that game, and then I went back to high school. It was black and white film. Processing this stuff in the dark room was pretty archaic. Are these chemicals fresh? Is this, the stuff, negatives would be good sometimes, other times they wouldn't be. Very grainy, but now we just call that an artistic look, right? This is Bobby Clark and Gilbert Perreault in the 75 finals. I had it sort of, as much as I was given permission to shoot that year, I had to kind of talk my way in to just get a pass for the final, what could have been the final game, and it was. They knowing that it might be the final game, I was able to still get a credential without a spot to shoot, so that I could shoot the Stanley Cup being presented if it happened. All that optimism there, and sure enough, the Flyers won the game 2-0. They won the series. I was on the ice. If you wanted black and white pictures, you shot black and white film and on another camera. If you wanted color, you shot color, because you couldn't make good black and whites from the color back then. The presentation, if you're familiar with hockey now, goes on for hours. They're on the ice forever. This was a quick little ceremony. The commissioner handed him the cup. They took a quick tour of the ice, about a half a lap around the ice. He did one fist bump on it. And if you wanted to get a good picture, you made sure you had your plaid pants on and a nice white collar and a nice long haircut and glasses like I did. And that's a screen grab from NHL Network a couple of years ago. But and then into the Flyers dressing room to shoot more wrong team celebrating, and get back to biology class at St. Joe's the next day. So the early years, shooting late 70s, early 80s, did a lot of portraits of the guys off ice and things like that for our game program, back when programs were a big deal because there were no internet stories, obviously. Danny Gare there in his youth with his Mulligans t-shirt, and we had some good times hanging out. Looks like a friendly guy, right? Unless you're a goalie that he's had about enough with. Taking it out on some poor goalie there, Gary Edwards of the North Stars, and then fighting Clark Gillies, who was about a foot taller than him in the playoffs, and a goal scorer too. Great guy, been a great contributor to Western New York, and just a great guy, and a proud grandpa. And then later on, he wound up, he's running a Sabres skills clinic, and that's our daughter Stephanie in her early years of hockey, where she started with Shamrocks, that I coached her, and that's so the traditions of my relationships with the players and that have gone on forever, and I want to talk about that a little bit. That's Randy Muller, who was a villain when he played with the Quebec Nordiques. Later on in his career, he played with the Sabres. We've become great friends. We talk frequently. He's the longtime vice president of broadcasting and color commentator for the Florida Panthers. So he works between the benches. So that's us a few years ago hanging out between the benches doing a game together. Great guy. And Lindy Ruff, just one of the best. Great player, great coach, better person. Tony McKegney playing in his youth with Gordie Howe. That's Gordie Howe, very late in his career. I'd have to look it up, but he's probably 45 years old there, though he looks older, but hockey will do that to you. Tony and I have remained friends, and my buddy Steve Dykstra, played with the Sabres early on in his career, later played with the Penguins and the Oilers, and the only player to have played with Gilbert Perreault, Wayne Gretzky, and Mario Lemieux. And then years later, that's him at the 99 finals, helping me carry some gear around when the Sabres were in the finals in Dallas. And my good buddy Donald Audette, great guy, great smile, great goal scorer, and amazing golfer. He's won his club championship in Montreal about 6 times. And then Mike Pekka stayed in Western New York, and now assistant coach for the Amerks. And that's Jim Kelly, the late Buffalo News sports writer who covered the Bills and the Sabres. Great person. And I love this part is that his grandson, Brandon, works on the ice crew that shovels during the TV timeouts at the Sabres games currently. And we play hockey together. So Jim Kelly's grandson and I are on the same hockey team. So carrying on that Buffalo hockey tradition for a while. I think this is one of the pictures that makes me feel the oldest. It just looks like he was shot during the Civil War of hockey, probably. That's Roger Crozier. So I shot an old Roger Crozier, a young Wayne Gretzky, a still young Wayne Gretzky with Burt Reynolds and Goldie Hawn and their Oilers owner, Peter Pocklington, when they were filming the movie Best Friends in Buffalo. That was after the night that Gretzky broke Phil Esposito's goal scoring record. Also post-game, that's the Sabres original voice of the Sabres, Ted Darling, doing a radio post-game show with Jerry Korab. If you squint and lean close, Jerry's got the cig going. Off the ice, grab a cigarette. It's 1978. Pat LaFontaine and Alex McGillney, an amazing year in 1992. Alex scored 76 goals, and that I happened to be up in the catwalk shooting, and that's I believe after his 50th goal, Pat handing the puck to Alex after his 50th goal. One of my favorite Sabres occasions was Gilbert Perreault in 1986 scoring his 500th goal. You never know what's going to happen. Could happen at home or on the road. We didn't cover the road games. And he scored it here against the New Jersey Devils, and an amazing celebration. The whole bench emptied, lifted him up on his shoulders. I think it's my most heroic Sabres photo. I mean, it was only it's in 1986. It was a long time ago, but in that we haven't won a cup or anything. I just love that photo for like how heroic it is and the joy on the people's faces. And there was nobody.
Hey, Bill, we got another question for you.
Yeah, jump in.
Rob Goldberg asked, do you have some of the pictures that are in the arena now?
The ones that are in the arena, like on the walls and all that. Yeah, a lot of them are mine. There's some are also from other collections, but many of them are mine, and I have most of the originals. I should. Somewhere over there.
Okay, thanks.
That was the follow. That was after the game. Look at the joy. That's Perreault after the 500th goal with Mike Foligno. Like, it's a corny picture, right? But it's like so corny when you shoot it, right? But then, look at that, like 35 years later, it's just, it really means something. Brad May celebrating his May Day goal after they swept the Bruins in 1993. Crazy game in 1994, the following year when they beat the Devils in 4 overtimes. Dave Hannon, 0-0 game through almost 7 periods. And Dominic Hasek had a shutout, and Hannon won it with a backhand goal. And the game ended at 152. 70 shots on goal for the Devils. And Hasek was amazing. Some cool lighting with some special effects stuff with my lights that I do from a shot from up in the catwalks. And this is a little bit further down the line in 1989 when Alex McGillney came to Buffalo. He defected from Russia. That was the first day that he was in Buffalo. They had a press conference for him. He defected from basically Siberia, risking his family's safety to come here to play hockey. And leaving Siberia the day of the press conference was like May 9th. There was 5 inches of snow on the ground here. It always cracked me up. Then a few weeks later, we went to the waterfront and showed him it was nice here. We got a nice portrait of him for our publications. A couple years later, he had a different hairdo. He was a great guy, really intelligent guy, very inquisitive. And we taught him to play golf. He wanted to sleep in and go out at night. And eventually we twisted his arm and made him come play golf with us. And within about 2 months, he was down to a single-digit handicap. Belonged to Transit Valley. This is the last night of the games in the Aud in 1996. Somebody shot a picture of me. I think Harry Skull shot it for me. So that was the spring of 96 before we opened up the new arena. The banners came down. A lot of you have probably seen the video. The Sabres replayed it a number of times on MSG. It was a great night. LaFontaine put the final puck into the net. Hugs Sabretooth. The Sabres beat the Whalers. Everybody went through the crowded, narrow little hallways and went home. That's Seymour Knox, the original owner of the Sabres, and outside the under construction, what is now what was it was called Crossroads Arena when they tried it when it was first built before they did naming rights. Great gentleman, and he was already not in good health. I drove him over there, and he stood there like a soldier for the photo. Miro Satan, with his satanic look, do a lot of portraits then and now. And then when we moved into the new arena, Hasek was incredible. I mean, he was just pictures everywhere. I'd put remote cameras up in the catwalks, and all the magazines wanted his photos, and it was amazing. He's got a boxing robe there. It was handed out by the trainer, Jim Pizzatelli, at the time. He gave fight robes to his top fighters, but he also gave one to Dominic because he was, important part of the team. And then that first year, great moment. The first year in the new arena, they were in the playoffs against Ottawa. First round of the playoffs, tied up through 6 games. Game 7 was in Buffalo. It went to overtime, and that's Derek Plant scoring the game-winning overtime goal. Just as the puck's going in, it hit the goalie Ron Tugnut's glove and just fell in. It was one of my favorite moments, I think, of Sabres action photos. The crowds haven't even reacted yet, right? He wound up with a bloody lip from the celebration afterward. It was great. Then a couple years later, 1999, the Stanley Cup Finals again. Our second trip to the finals, playing Dallas. We had the red and black uniforms then, so they went with the sea of red with the shirts and pom poms and all. And we had another disappointment then in a championship game with Brett Hull's foot in the crease and scoring the goal. But again, you got to keep shooting the wrong team celebrating. You can't just cry. You got to just keep working it. And then winding up in their dressing room, shooting pictures of Brett Hull celebrating with champagne and Coors Light. Not happy, but what are you going to do? And then Buffalo being Buffalo, we find a way to celebrate it, right? They sell, I don't know, tens of thousands of people wind up at Niagara Square, City Hall, to celebrate the team and the fact that they had a great season. Michael Pekka talking to the crowd, Dominic trying to find his own inimitable words for it, and Lindy Ruff with his 2 words signing off to the crowd saying, "No goal." So we got a timeout now for some questions. Anybody?
Yes, Bill. What is the camera manufacturer of your choice, Canon, Nikon? And what's the typical lens that you use in hockey? Is it fixed or zoom?
It's zoom. So just throw back a little bit, way back, zoom qualities could not measure up to what prime fixed lenses could. But now the zooms have improved so much. And for a sport like hockey, friends of mine know that we call it the cheater lens. I use Canon gear, and Canon 15 years ago came out with a heavy duty, real professional lens that the focal range on it is 28 to 300. And sometimes those lenses in that range are kind of cheap quality, like prosumer lenses. This is a real pro lens, and it's really one lens covers the whole rink. I mean, I will use something a little wider and something a little longer, but for one lens, there's not time in a hockey game to keep picking things up and putting things down. You're going to miss plays. You can do it, but you're going to miss plays. Football, we tend to use 2 or 3 at a time. I use a 200, 400 zoom, and I also use a 28-70 around my neck for when plays get closer to me. And then sometimes I have a third camera with something intermediate. But I use Canon, but everything's, they're all great right now. They're all great. The Canon, the new mirrorless stuff, which is not that new anymore, that keeps getting better and better. Sony was first to jump on the mirrorless thing. Nikon's done a great job with it. Canon's got a new one that's coming out that's going to be as good as all of those. So I don't think there's really one that's better than the other at this point.
Bill, I have a question, if you've got a minute.
Don?
First of all, thank you for doing this. This is just a great trip through memory lane, and see what you've done over the years is just terrific. You talked a little bit about lacrosse and a lot about professional football, the Bills, and a lot about professional hockey, the Sabres. Are there any other sports, perhaps some of the sports or one of the sports that you were shooting early on, a professional sport that you might have taken pictures of and have anything to say about that?
This man is a plant. Longtime friend of mine. And in our early years, when I was dabbling in photography, we both had an interest in the very amateurish professional wrestling at the time, long before the WWF. We both shot pro wrestling photos at the Odd with literally Instamatic cameras, and then upgraded slightly at that point to something a little bit better. And that was the genesis of my photography.
You've done well, my friend.
Just trying to get better every day, Don.
Thank you, Bill.
Anybody
Bill,
else?
just a quick question on perspective. So you've seen the teams both from the media standpoint and also as an official team photographer. So how has your relationship changed with the players, the coaches? How does access change? Just give us an idea, and like how you try to stage things. Is there a difference compared to covering for the Buffalo News and say covering for the teams?
Great question. For the news, you're just, you're covering the story, and there's anything's open to coverage, right? Like in terms of where, but you can only go where you can go, like, which is basically the games, right? You're not in a locker room for a team or anything like that, or for the newspaper. But you just try to be a journalist, right? You're just, and we really still are for the team too, but it's just still from your team's perspective and what is of interest to your viewers based on your team websites, et cetera. But for the newspaper, like you're just, you're trying to cover both sides of the story. That said, though, you're still more interested in the Buffalo perspective. Like, Jim McCoy from the News was covering the Jacksonville game this weekend, and we wound up being next to each other for a good part of the game. We run like crazy. I run 5 to 6 miles during any football game. But we had so many pictures that were similar because we're thinking about it from the Buffalo angle. Like, you want Buffalo facing you. So that's number one. So, and then in terms of access, there are some things that I'll do with the Bills and Sabres where there's a little bit of locker room access. COVID protocols changed a lot of that in the last 2 years. We're easing back into it a little, but prior to COVID, I'd jump into the locker room and do something maybe pregame before a Sabres game, postgame for sure after Bills wins, and do something, the coach speech, things like that. A lot of what we do for the football team now is providing photos for the players, like, so that for their own social platforms, and not next week immediately. Like, I'm on the bus after games sending photos to players. So, I mean, there's a lot of differences and a lot of similarities, but that's just a couple things that come to mind. Anything else? We can slide through into.
Bill, we have a question from the chat. Bill, which sports do you prefer to shoot?
Dry ones.
Good answer.
Hockey rinks are really cold, even our arena. They keep it cold just for the ice. You got to do it right. And it's just, boy, it's like, but it's dry, you can bundle up. Wet football games, I get a little cranky. You deal with it, you prepare for it. And you'd almost rather have a forecast that says it's going to be 90% chance of rain, because you just batten down the hatches and you're ready for it. Those games where it says, I don't think it's going to rain and I think it should be okay. And then you're all set, right? Without because you don't want all the protective stuff on your cameras, because it makes it harder to shoot, right? And then all of a sudden it starts pouring and you're like, oh, here we go. But I like all sports. I like the variety. I really would not want to do just one thing. For the paper, I shot everything. I mean, you'd be at a field hockey game 1 minute, and then you'd be at a political thing, and then you'd be at a basketball game, and then tomorrow you'd be at a swim meet. And right now I'm just mostly the football and hockey and the Bandits too. But I've shot PGA golf, and as much as I love golf, I play tons of golf. I love photography. Shooting a golf tournament is really not great. I've shot big ones, and the big ones are fun because there's a lot of emotion. But if you watch a normal golf tournament on TV and you've seen the guys walking around, it's like you're carrying around 40 pounds of stuff. You've got stuff strapped on you. You're in hiking boots. You're trying to do it quietly, walking up and down hills, hoping to get a guy who's going to react after a big putt. And he goes, like, that's the reaction shot, right? Like, nobody's jumping up and down. Ryder Cup, big events, completely different. I've shot the Ryder Cup in Rochester. I've shot US Open. That's cool. But I got to say, like opening day at a Bills game on a nice day with 80,000 people there, that's huge. I'm going to keep scrolling through here. Just going through fast here on some of the hockey. Like, so after they lost in '99, they had some great years in 06, 07. Happy times. Ty Domi and Rob Ray just trying to talk things over. That didn't work. So there they go. And Marty Baron and fellow goalie Ray Emery talking things over. That didn't work. And then Andrew Peters jumping in to fight the goalie. This is classic. This is when Chris Drury got hit kind of illegally or very illegally, and started a huge brawl. So it's a classic Sabres game. They had a great outdoor game against the Penguins. Amazing. Forget what it was, but probably 70,000 people there. The first real Winter Classic in America. Just a riot to shoot it. You know, you're from Buffalo. That segues into some Ryan Miller. We didn't go to the end of that game because we lost that one in overtime. Ryan Miller, just amazing person, great goalie, great athlete, and he always made great photos. That's the camera in the net inside a housing remote, fired remote. His mask coming off there, so I turned that into black and white, making it look like an old school 1950s goalie photo, except goalies didn't wear that big of pads in the 1950s. And then more netcam stuff. Netcam is great, except every netcam photo doesn't look like this. Usually 99% of them are just, we call it the goalie butt cam, because it's just the back of the goalie facing out. And so it's only when the goalie sort of spins around and does something like this that it becomes a great shot. An amazing night, the night that Terry Pegula was introduced as the owner of the team. The French Connection came out on the ice and surprised him. He was like, I thought he was going to fall over. He was shocked. And the roar of the crowd standing on center ice, hearing that approval was great. Of course, we've lost Rico and Renee recently. And then just at the games here, just always try to make it different. There's a lot of, we're trying to blend telling a story, getting the important pictures of moments and players, and trying to make some artistic stuff and fun moments, players and kids. This is obviously from a few years ago before COVID protocols, because you can't have people down there now. Just always an amazing night. Hockey Fights Cancer night. And it just creates great awareness and obviously incredible images. And then I like to do a lot of stuff. This is my Dasher cam. I'm not the only person in the league that does this, but I really enjoy doing it, making cool pictures. It's a camera that I place through a little opening in the boards with plexiglass over at the boards. It shoots through. I can fire it remotely. It doesn't move. It's just pre-focused, and when they get near it, I fire it. And again, you only see the good ones. There's a lot of lousy ones. But when they're all facing you like that and the puck is coming in, it's incredible. And that's where it sits. I have to rig it up a couple hours before the game. It's just clamped in, and then behind that black cardboard there it's just poking through through that opening. And there's, like I say, there's plexiglass in front of it. And then just always looking for cool artistic shots from down below, from up above. Do a lot of portraits of the guys on media days. Always remember on media day, do your hair right.
Bill, we have a question from the chat. Did you ever shoot the Braves in their last couple of years here?
Stay tuned. Coming up. Yep, I did. And it was on film in black and white, no motor drive. Shot it for United Press International, would shoot the first half and then run across to the darkroom at the Buffalo News building to get pictures out in deadline. There'll be some pictures of that coming up. Just always looking for great action moments. It happens fast. Getting pictures before the games as they go out on the ice. We use those on our social media. We use them on the TV broadcasts as intros to each period. That's usually my spot down by the Zamboni, sitting on a little folding stool. There's usually, and just hoping that this guy down at the bottom is not making better pictures than me with his phone. And then that's on a road game. Sitting on that little folding stool that you buy at Target. You're cramped up, sitting with your legs crossed. Usually you lose a feeling in your legs and your feet, trying to edit pictures during TV timeouts. It's not like the most comfortable, like OSHA approved workstation. And that's why we have the holes in the glass, because you can't shoot through that when that happens. And yes, pucks can come through that. And then do a lot of remote photography sometimes from up in the catwalks. Place a camera up there. It's safely clamped and secured with wires. And again, fired remote control. That was for the NCAA Frozen Four a few years ago here, with a view of where I thought the winning goalie might be, and that they would celebrate. I didn't have enough gear to do both ends. So my guess was that end, and it paid off. That's them. I'm down at ice level shooting, but that's firing that camera. And then if you look where that green light is behind the net, signaling the end of the game, there's a pole there for the TV camera. I've got another camera clamped to that pole for that angle. So I was able to get 2 angles of that celebration in addition to what I shot from all the way down at the other end, down by the Zamboni. And more celebrating on the ice and off the ice. Ricotta's is the pizza of choice of a lot of the out-of-town teams. And then last year was crazy, like for football and for hockey. They're playing games in empty buildings. I mean, I know they showed it on TV, but you just could not believe what it was like. It felt like you were at Northtown Center watching a men's league game at 11 o'clock at night, except it was world-class athletes. So it's great to have the celebrations back, and certainly to have the fans back too. We're looking for more crowds, but the fans that have been there have been great. We got time for some questions here if you want to jump in before we get into the final batch.
What kind of resilience do you see out of Buffalo sports fans over the years after losses and stuff, like staying with the team and everything? How do you see that coming out of the Buffalo people more than other places?
I think history shows they do, right? And a lot of them have even moved, right? And then they show up at these games, like in Jacksonville Sunday. I mean, there had to have been 25,000 Bills fans there, and they were predominantly on the Bills bench side. And they're not all from Buffalo, right? I mean, they're from, you know, they're expatriates that have moved on to other places, and they're not all from Jacksonville either. And they're so resilient, like, right? Like, you know, we've had disappointing decades. We've had, you know, we rally a little bit, and then we went 16, 17 years without football playoffs, and then we're on the upswing, but we have a disappointing loss last year, but keep coming back for more. I think there couldn't be anybody that's more resilient than Buffalo fans, no matter where they are.
All right, Bill, we have a couple more from the chat. Rob Goldberg has asked, do you have a perspective on the current Sabres team and what it holds for the future post-Eichel? And then following up with that is Craig Small have you published any photos, photo books for sale?
I wish I had 6 of me to put some of that stuff together. So no, I haven't. And part of the problem is licensing. So in what I used to call the cowboy era, when you sort of owned all your own stuff, it was your stuff, you could do whatever, you kind of work through that. But everything that we do now is owned by the teams and the leagues and logos, and there's a lot of, it can be done, but it has to be done very carefully, and a lot of work to do that. And I might need 2 of me. Ever see the Michael Keaton movie, Multiplicity? I could use that guy.
And that's just to Rob's question about your perspective on the current Sabres team and what it holds for the future post-Eichel. Then we'll have one more after that, but I'll let you answer that question first.
Cool. Well, we had a great start, and we've stumbled in the last 5 games, but it's a process, and you just really have to throw away that it's been a process for a number of years, right? Because it's just a whole new process, and you've got a new group of young guys and a new group of veterans, and just you never know how it's going to go. Like every game is different, right? Like last night they lost the game and had some weird deflections. I always say hockey's kind of weird. I mean, like it's my favorite sport, I guess, but it's can be the flukiest. And that game last night was kind of a toss up and they had 3 deflected goals going on them. So like we've got some great young talent coming up and that talent takes time. I mean, hockey players are drafted when they're 18, 19 and they go back in the pond for a bit and we'll see how it shakes out in the next year or two. I'm optimistic. I'll be there.
All right, and one more, and then we'll let you continue on. In the modern digital age, approximately how many total photos do you shoot during a Bills game, and how many photos do you actually use from your initial take, also from Sabres game?
We shoot way more. Myself and everybody shoots way more. I mean, how many more photos do we shoot of our desserts when we got to dinner than we did 10 years ago, right? One of the reasons is that we're using them sooner. So photography, I always say, hasn't changed that much, but the definition of the word soon has, meaning a generation ago, those pictures were going in a magazine next month, next week, maybe. There was no immediate use of anything. There was no social media. Now, everything that we shoot has value 40 years from now, next month, next weekend, and in 5 minutes after we shoot it. So we're constantly shooting things that we never even thought of. At a typical Bills home game, I will have shot 1,500 photos before the kickoff. Player arrivals, players, like every player arriving to see what clothes they're in and all that. Nothing in the dressing room, but players coming out in the tunnel, and all those pictures get used. Some of the arrival pictures are used at 9:30 in the morning. The players warming up at 11 o'clock are used at 11:15. The players in the tunnel at 12 o'clock are used. So it's all these crazy uses that never existed before. And then once the game starts, probably shoot about another 3,000 photos. And then percentages, like there's not that many that aren't somewhat usable. If it's across the field and it's nothing but backs, it's not really usable. But you're still looking for the best. And even in a sequence, and if you're shooting a football burst of, 15, 20 frames a second, some of these cameras do, there's still that one frame that's better than the rest. And just the way they're turned, or where they look more athletic, or where, if there's a hit, where the ball pops out, like it's in his hands and then it's out of his hands. And you don't shoot the fumble after it happens. You shoot the fumble at impact, not knowing that there will be a fumble. So hockey games, I shoot far less because I shoot on strobes, which is a whole different story, but I shoot one photo every 3 or 4 seconds because I've got strobes in the ceiling that, so I'm only shooting 400 or 500 pictures a game at most. Anything else?
Oh, we can move on.
Cool. So like I said, great to have the fans back. All right, Bandits. Scott Loeffler, are you there? Here's the Bandits. Great sport. It's changed a bit from its when it started. It was really chaotic. There were just so many fights, and the guys stayed on the field forever. And now it's a little more. I don't know, I would call it cerebral, but there's like the offense runs off the field when they lose the ball, and the defense comes on, and but the fans have never changed. Again, I do some remote cameras up top. And the interplay between the players and the fans, and there's so many goals. They're really fun to shoot. But you think you can follow action. The whole game is like a hidden ball trick. You're trying to find this little white ball, and they all run around with their sticks like this. And you think they all got the ball, and you're following the wrong guy. It's crazy. Their season starts at the beginning of December. They've got 9 home games, and really affordable, fun family night. It's really fun. If you've never been, I would suggest making an effort to get there this year. This is, and then just a little bit of everything here. Michael Jordan played, and the Bulls played an exhibition game in the Odd in 1992. That was really fun. I mean, I don't think I had an assignment. That's just one of those things you just go. And he was Michael then, but he was not Michael. So it was cool. I'm glad I went just to have those photos. And there's the Braves. So The Braves came into existence the same year as the Sabres in 1970, 71. They only stayed for 8 years. Just a bunch of issues, but it was fun shooting them. I jumped in my first year of college. I got assignments from United Press International for, I probably spent more money driving there and parking than I got paid, but that's how you start. Shot it for UPI, shot black and white film. Like I said, the dark room was across the street at the Buffalo News building, and we'd shoot till halftime and then try to get pictures out really fast, develop the film, dry the film, put the negatives into the enlarger, make the prints. That print's too dark, next print's too light, make another print. All right, got it just right. Dry the print, type a caption on sticky paper, tape it to the edge of the frame, and then put it on a transmitting drum that took like 9 minutes to transmit this black and white photo. It sounds like it's the Civil War, but it was 1977. Short shorts, Bob McAdoo, Ernie D. Gregorio. There's the marketing back then. 2 signs, Merchants Insurance Group and the radio station WBEN. That's it. No advertising anywhere else. World Junior International Ice Hockey Federation Championships at the at the arena in 2011. Just a crazy celebration photo. And then some published photos. Just Sports Illustrated loved their 2-page photo spreads. It was always a big deal, man. Now it's a compliment if somebody says, "Oh, I love your photo. It's my screensaver." Like the real compliment back then was to have big photos in Sports Illustrated. They'd run 3 double-page photos every week, and to get them in there was a big deal. Those bright lights up there are the strobe lights going off that I talked about. So every photo I shoot is shot with these strobes that add extra light. It was really necessary with the older cameras. It's becoming less necessary with the higher quality digitals now, but I still use them. I love the quality. And again, that's a remote picture, 1 photo, no motor drive. That's on the strobe. Just a crazy scene of him crashing into the goalpost. In the Hockey News, just lots of places. There's a story on Mike Pekka after he got traded to the Maple Leafs. They wanted to do a story on him getting ready to be a Maple Leaf. So I got the neighborhood kids and our daughter Stephanie on the right there, who was in her early hockey career, hooking Mike Pekka. And she's been a part of it all along. Steph's 22 now. She played hockey forever. She'd always want to be my dad. She'd come and shoot some pictures next to me. And then as she got older, she went to Sacred Heart and didn't take photography or anything, but she knew her hockey, and she'd actually assist me at some of the games, and has had probably over 200 pictures, I think, on Getty Images that she shot at the game. So to share that time with her was incredible. She also came to Sweden. I went with the Sabres 2 years ago to Sweden, and she flew on her own, which is a cool thing to have your young daughter be able to fly to Europe on her own and not lose her passport, get kidnapped, or forget to come home. So we had a great time in Sweden. The Sabres played Tampa for 2 games there, and she's got to be part of it. That was a riot. And then that's last year, again, like talked about the, shooting games with no fans. I mean, that looks like the Cleve Hill Maryville game, right? That's the Bills and the Jets playing a pro NFL game in the stadium there. It's just incredible. So very limited people on the field. Just the team personnel and broadcast could be on the field. So no media. The media all shot from the first row. It was weird. I mean, just literally talking to myself.
What was your most famous picture? Do you have any famous O.J. Bruno maglets at the stadium? And then also, do the strobe lights affect the players?
No, but they made the Bruno Mali shoes look good. No, I did not shoot OJ with Bruno Mali's. Harry Skull did. But OJ was around all the time then. It was one of those games that either I wasn't at or I didn't shoot a picture of him, But OJ was there all the time. I sort of included a picture of OJ in this, but I took it out. Another one of him because doing a Bills broadcast. And most famous, I'll have to think. Let me think about that one while we're scrolling here. That's the typical lens I use. That's a Canon 200-400, which has a built-in 1.4 extender. So it can go up to a 560 millimeter. That's generally used for my football when they're like more than 30 yards away from me. You try to get as close. You just don't want to be too close because they jump out of the frame. So it's a constant battle of using, you know, they're too far away, they're too close. They're too far, they're too close, and there's no script, right? You're trying to guess, like, you know, like a defense is, where the play is going. Great being back on the field again. It's my longtime assistant, Joe, who runs cards for us. In the old days, they used to just hold cameras, but now with deadlines, we're constantly pulling cards out 30 times a game. After 5 or 6 plays, the card comes out of the camera, gets handed to Joe, and he runs it into our editors. People ask if we could just transmit it wirelessly from the cameras. You can, but you are dependent on Wi-Fi in the stadium. And if you've ever tried to text a photo to somebody in a stadium with 80,000 people in it, you'll find that you can barely, you know, do that, much less our crazy photo. So because we have access to runners and having an editing station nearby, we use the running system. And this is pretty funny. Like every garbage can is a desk when you're on location. This is in Miami. I was doing pictures of Bill's arrivals this fall. So I'm editing pictures on a garbage can, and in Chicago, like, wow, this is great. There's a garbage can right here, stand-up desk. They're all the rage. And then we work anywhere. That's our Zach Speck, our Bill's social media editor, who's in charge, responsible for most of the Cool's Bill's social media posts. That's probably an hour and 10 minutes after a game. We're on the bus and we're working the whole bus rides to the airport, on the plane, just downloading stuff, you know, creating content that they've done during the game, but it never ends. And then a little bit about Josh Allen. He's a great guy. He's a really nice kid. I mean, I can call him a kid. He's a big kid. 240 pounds. You would not believe the size of a quarterback. Like, it's crazy. I mean, he's as big as some of our linemen. But that was day one when he got off the plane. He's been a really kind person ever since. Look at that face, man. That was on the limo bus going from the airport to One Bills Drive for the opening, to meet the staff and have his first press conference at the stadium. Just really good person. Super cooperative when we need to do things, if we give him small lifts. Love this photo. That's not a pose photo. That's just coming out of the tunnel in Miami where the light falls off, and it always makes a great photo. We do the departure photos that are on our social media every Saturday before we leave for road games, and he always knows to smile and give me a thumbs up, whether it's coming on the plane or coming off. It's part of what we do. Like, if he played hard to get and just was goofing around, which I totally appreciate, goofing around, but he did this and didn't want his picture taken, people would be in a tizzy at 3:00 on Saturday. There's no picture of Josh. Did he not make the plane? So it's really cool that he cooperates. That's coming after 2 a.m. when he did the selfie that I think people wanted to hang in the art gallery. I think they eventually did. They may have hung it in the art gallery, the photo that he shot. This is just a funny moment. I mentioned Harry Scully shot this picture. That was Josh's first exhibition game when he first came here in 2018. I was explaining to him that when they built the stadium in 1973, they didn't have drainage technology then. So the crown on the field to drain right was like this. The middle of the field was 18 inches higher than the sidelines back then. So that in theory, if you were throwing to a 6-foot tall receiver on the sideline, he was only 4.5 feet tall. So I was explaining that to him, that you had to take that, quarterbacks back then had to take that into account. Now they've got technology with the drainage so that the field is basically flat. And he's had 3 incredible jumps, and I have been fortunate or good karma or something to be in a nice position at a nice angle to get all 3 of them. That was the first one he did in Minnesota in 2018. This was in a playoff game 2 years later in Houston. And then here's a sequence of just last month in Kansas City, where I had just the play before run about 80 yards from the 110-yard line to the other 10-yard line. I'm about 50, but I had a better angle then. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know which way they're going to go. And I just happened to be that a very important play came my way. And this is a sequence of him doing that last leap. And on this frame, he's looking straight ahead. So it looks like he's looking right at the camera. It looks like we set it up. It's crazy. And most football plays, you're just praying you don't get blocked. We're shooting through a moving picket fence. There's ball boys, there's referees, there's 20 other players out there. There's broadcast TV people. It's crazy. So it's been fun shooting him, and I'm looking forward to more years of doing it. That is smoke. That is not snow. That is snow. That is the crazy game in 2017, December 10th against the Colts. At 11 o'clock, it was a green field, and at 1 o'clock, that's what it looked like. And you all remember it, I hope. It was incredible. Everybody's got a romantic view of the game now. They said it's one of the best games ever. They just loved it so much. It was so cool. Well, I say that it was cool because we won. I think if we lost that game, it would have been just the stupidest game ever. It was crazy. Like, it was just survival. Like I talk about shooting with different cameras, you couldn't keep all your cameras dry. So you just went down to one camera that you could keep dry, and the wind was howling. You can see the guys with the snow blowers there. They were blowing off the sidelines. That's my viewfinder. That's what I'm supposed to look through. So I would take my finger, I'd take my glove off, and then just try to poke the snow off with my finger. It's still wet, and you still got to see. It's autofocus, but you have to be able to see. You have to know that it's in focus. Like it was, and the wind is blowing. It's unbelievable. I think by the fourth quarter, it calmed down, and it actually got like what we call nice. Except at that point, we're standing in like a foot and a half of packed snow on the sidelines. It was just amazing, but it made cool pictures, right? I said it looked like he aged 60 years in one play there, the eyebrows and the mustache. And God bless the fans. They sat there. Looks like Jack Nicholson in the end of this, Shining. And this overtime, LaShawn McCoy running and ran my way, ran right at me and into that pile. Look at that. It's like a movie. So at that point, that was with the long lens and all that, but I got this short lens with me, and just hoping that you're, making decent photos. That's a Hail Mary. That's just, hold it up and pray. And that's my best picture that came out of it. Crazy. It looks like they're in about 9 feet of snow, right? But it's just the way
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, it's just the way it just the way they fell, and it just looks like they're literally up to their shoulders in snow.
We have a couple more questions I'm just going to ask you as you're going through. I hope that's all right.
Sure.
So we don't get too backed up on them. So one is, hey, Bill, can you discuss the camaraderie, if any, with other photographers from other teams or whose photos work you do follow?
With Instagram, you can follow a lot of people. So there's just so much out there, and you can, and not just photographers, just everyday people. Those last couple of pictures were so just real quick. 2 weeks after that snow game, we had an outdoor World Junior Championship game, and it was more of the same. It started out as a nice day. It's not bad. It's cold, but it's just nice. And then it turned into this. Just again, this was 2 weeks after that crazy game. The USA beat Canada in that. Camaraderie of photographers have always helped each other. I mean, it's, you want to get the best picture. Going back to the early days, I would, when the Courier Express, Mickey Ostreicher and Bob Bucati and Ron Schifferle and all these guys, phenomenal photographers. And if you just knew if Bob Bucati was on a job, you were like, oh my God, especially if it was a boring assignment, you knew I better come up with something great because Bob's going to have something really good in the paper tomorrow. Amazing. And to this day too, we look at each other's stuff. And I don't doubt that if somebody had a problem and a camera wigged out and just something happened, or they lost somebody would help somebody out with a photo, it's just, people do help each other out. You need something, borrow this, borrow that. Oh, this is broken, here, take my battery, whatever. I got an extra battery because the next day it could be you. So there is always a camaraderie. I follow a lot of photographers. I mean, there's just so many NHL guys and NFL guys, art photographers. I mean, it's crazy to name one.
So another question for you. Which football stadium, the first time you walked in, gave you the biggest wow factor considering the history of the place?
Lambeau Field and Soldiers Field, Green Bay and Chicago, but both of them have been remodeled so much that they don't look like the 1960s anymore. I was in Soldier Field in Chicago before they did the real crazy renovation. It was probably one of my worst weather games ever. It was just a 38-degree rain in October. I was shooting for Topps trading cards, doing the football cards for them. It was just an amazingly cold day. And, but those are, yeah, I mean, being in Lambeau Field, we were there about 3 years ago. That was really cool. Speaking of state, that's a great segue to this. This is the tunnel in Detroit, in Ford Field, their dome stadium downtown. And it's so Spartan, and I love it. It's so plain, the lighting, like there's lights that are on, lights off, and it just makes great photos. I was there 3 years ago, and I couldn't wait to come back this year and do more. It's really cool. So we're kind of in the home stretch here. Shooting the football, the action pictures are key, but there's always these moments, right? Like, you're just these little things, and it's the player relationships and moments between coach and player. We found out that Deion Dawkins had just had his daughter the night before, I believe. Coach was reacting to that. I mean, I think we're in Miami there. And oh yeah, because Deion left and came back, and he came back, he came home for the birth of his daughter and then flew back on his own to get to the game. And that's really cool. I mean, that's an hour before a game. A coach is kissing his player on the head, man. Very cool. And coach is an amazing man. And then just neat moments like this. Dumb luck. We shoot the huddle. This is in Dallas, the Thanksgiving game 2 years ago. Shoot the huddle at noon, at an hour before the game all the time. There's another photographer shooting this over on the right. You can see her belt pack or whatever. And her flash went off and lit that up. And it made that a crazy photo. I'm just happy to get the result, the effect of her flash. Whoop. And then tender moments like this with Bill Belichick and Coach Sean. It's just, and these things happen fast. That is a blink of an eye. That's just, they come in and then boom, hi, bye, boom, over, done. And you're elbow to elbow with other photographers trying to make that happen. And that's at that same game, ouch. And then when the game, that's Cole Beasley. And then the joy of victory. He had a great game. And then that was when COVID protocols allowed for locker access, and a really heroic moment. And hopefully we'll get back to that soon. But just love that moment. Just really organic, and just happened to be there. And we do a lot of media day stuff in the spring and in the summer with players. Every player gets the star treatment. They love to. Some of it's action stuff that's all set up. Some guys are more demonstrative than others. I mean, you got some offensive linemen that are pretty stoic, and then the travel photos these days are huge. Some guys really dress up for it. Jordan Poyer, and some guys are just in sweatsuits. Stephon Diggs got a special outfit on every week, and the guys always want the pictures. As soon as we're on the plane, man, they're looking for their photos to put on their social. We shoot them going out. We shoot them getting on the plane. We shoot them getting off the plane. Shoot them getting on the buses. That's how our travel is. We get off, we land on the tarmac. There's 7 buses waiting for us that go straight to the hotel. And then pre-games, we're always looking for these moments. Again, it's not all action photos. Chasing cool light, trying to find patterns and interesting things that just break up the monotony of just football photos. The tunnels in different stadiums all create different environments. And the games get ready to start. You feel the emotion, you're on the field with them. It's really cool. See the personalities of the players coming out. Special reactions after touchdowns. Once the touchdown happens, you don't stop shooting because there's more to happen. Great having the fans back and enjoying the fans. And then this was this week in Jacksonville. We had Bills fans in the stands. We had them in the pool. They've got 2 waist-high waiting pools there up in the top level of the stadium. And then at this game, things were looking good at the start. We were feeling good. Things were going well. We were making plays. We were holding them off, making good defensive plays, but we just couldn't get it done. Disappointing game, but we've got more to play. Just like last year, that's how it ended last year. That's the AFC Championship game. I won a nice award from the Pro Football Hall of Fame contest with that photo. The team had gone in the locker room Diggs didn't leave. He stayed on the field, and he stood there watching the Chiefs celebrate and the confetti guns fire off, and he stood there, and that was his reaction. He was just standing there watching, and that was the moment when he just put his hands to his head and shot it, and it was like, wow, crazy moment. So, you know, dejection, but hope. And I'll just keep doing it. I love being out there. I keep running. I'm going to keep doing it. Keep trying to get better. We've got a great staff that helps us. And my advice for everybody is keep calm and believe. Questions from anyone?
Hi, Bill. Yes, I have a question. My name is Katie Wilson. I'm a senior at SUNY Brockport. I just wanted to thank you for speaking with us tonight. I was wondering if you had any advice for someone looking to get into a career similar with yours, working with national sports leagues. Like anything specific or like really pinpointed that you can think of that somebody wouldn't normally think of.
Well, be ready to adapt, which is not just for this, but it's for anything, right? I mean, things change, and, you know, the needs of jobs change, and being versatile, you know, being able to, you know, the more you can do, the more attractive you're going to be, for sure. I mean, people, our daughter just graduated from school, and we pressed writing, you know, make sure you can write. You know, you think you want to be a photographer, but boy, if you can write, you're ahead of the curve. If you can shoot video and edit, you know, because if you start out, you may not start out at the top. You may start for a smaller organization or team where you're asked to do everything. So the more that you can learn while you're a senior, and some of the stuff you can learn so quickly now. I mean, to just hover over people's shoulders and learn how to edit video on a couple different platforms, and how to be a better writer, and push yourself to be a better, you know, photographer or in any field. Let's just, I think versatility and adaptability be the biggest strengths right now.
Thank you so much. And thank you for showing us inside the games.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
So, Bill, that was great. Before we get to any other questions, we're going to have Stacy do the drawing and announce who the winner is. So, Stacy. You need to unmute yourself,
I
Stacy.
need to unmute myself. All right, everybody, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go ahead and spin the wheel. Everybody who donated $20 or more towards Dignity Grows, thank you very much for your contribution. The link is also in the chat if you're interested in doing that, helping us support this wonderful cause. And here we go. Congratulations, Irv Pine. You have won the photograph from Bill, and you can have the option to choose from one of the photos that were shown here tonight, and we will connect with you after the program, and then we will get that delivered directly to you. So congratulations, and thank you, Bill, of course, for offering us a wonderful opportunity and support of Dignity Grows, and for all your amazing work. While I'm on here, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions that are from the chat. One was actually one that I'm sitting here with my dad and we thought about was, have you ever been hit by any of the players? Have you knocked over while you're taking a picture or any of that?
I have not been run over at a football game so far.
Knock on wood.
It's the two most important words in life. We joke around with this, so far. You can end every sentence in your day with words so far. I have not. I've not been hit with a puck through the hole. Everybody just positive vibes here, right? That I'm not jinxing myself, right?
That's right. That's right.
I've never hit a deer on Griner, right? Boom. But I think in Josh's first year, he threw a ball. This is not like getting run over. We've all seen those films. But Josh threw a ball that skipped off the turf about 10 yards from me, and it bounced up and hit me in the thigh. And I think I was like for about 10 minutes, like, I'm not going to cry. Like, unbelievable. But no, not the catastrophic run over thing. You know, it can happen to anybody, but you just try to be alert. Like, you know, like there's a lot on sidelines. There's a TV cart. There's cables everywhere, right? Like, it's unbelievable. Like there's so many people down there, and it's like we get mad as photographers, like, oh, I didn't get this, I missed that. I go, I think it's a miracle sometimes that we get the shots we get. Like it's like, did you just see what's going on? Like the referee's in a way, he moved, the ball boy just moved in the middle of the kick. Like the TV truck is right behind you. Like it's just funny. Like because we're our own worst critics, right? So, but so far I haven't been run over. Everybody positive vibes.
Good. We have 2 more questions, and then we're going to
Yep.
wrap it up for tonight. One of the questions from Rob McElroy is, do you miss shooting any of the diverse assignments that you used to shoot in the Buffalo News?
Rob is a longtime friend of mine. It's great to have him on here. Hi, Rob. Yeah, I mean, like I just would not have want to have ever have shot just one thing. Like there's guys who are just baseball photographers or whatever, and they took the rest of the year off or something. Like the Buffalo News, 32 years there, I shot everything. So it's a smart question. Do you miss that? And but it was a little scattered, and there was not a lot of planning because everything was just, I mean, that's not like a slam. It's just, that's the way it is. It's like, oh, this came up, that came up. You got to go here. You know, like it was just, with this, there's a little more planning and you can think about things ahead of time. So I miss some of those other events. Some of those events didn't make for great photos. They just things you had to cover to be nice to that group or whatever, you know, and so they weren't great photos. You met a lot of great people. I mean, there's not a street, a neighborhood or area or that I haven't been to in Western New York and, you know, anywhere around Western New York. Whereas you run, you know, so there are parts of it I miss and parts of it I don't, but good question.
So our one last final question, which I think is a good one to end us off on, is what was the one picture that you didn't take that you wished you had?
The first thing that popped in my head was we went to watch our daughter's boyfriend's hockey game at Geneseo the other night. And I said, I'm not going to bring a camera. I'm just going to watch. All right. And then he scored 2 goals in the first 4 minutes. The place erupted. And I don't wish I had shot pictures. I just wish that I had just been shooting, you know, phone video because the building went crazy. It was such a great moment. Right? I was like, so that's the first thing that popped. So it's nothing really big or historic, but I'm like, that's the first thing that pops into my head. I would like to have had video of that because it was so cool. There's, you know what? I wish I'd shot more pictures with, we had shot more pictures of friends growing up. You know, think about kids that grow up today, right? Like, I mean, you've got all these pictures, and if there's anybody fairly young here, do something with them. Don't just leave them on a hard drive somewhere. Like, just get them printed up. Like, that's sort of a message to everybody here. Like, all these pictures you've got of your, like I joked about your dessert. Oh, here's my, you know, I shot, we were at Hutch's, like I shot pictures of the rack of lamb, right? Like, but I don't have pictures like some of my best friends growing up. Like, you know, I think I saw George Borelli on here. Like his brother Tom and I were best friends. I've got 2 pictures of us growing up. We spent our lives together growing up. I've got like maybe 2 pictures of us, if that, right? Like, so like everybody that's on here, you've got all these family photos. Every once in a while, drag, and you've got 500 of them. Drag the top 10 to a folder and get them printed and put them in a little album and do something with them. Like, so sometimes it's not just, I wish I shot that picture. It's like, what the heck did I do with it? You know, just because it's on your phone, like, and it's in the cloud, like make a print of it, make a little Apple book out of it or something, you know?
It's a great piece of advice. We are all subject to do that, having lots of pictures on our phones and lots of pictures on our cameras, but not really doing anything with them like we should. So that's an amazing piece of advice.
Maybe Irv would like a picture of the rack of lamb that I shot at Hutchins instead of a sports photo.
Say you didn't take a picture of it, it wasn't actually there. So that's you know, could be a thing. But we just want to thank you so much, Bill. This was absolutely fantastic. This is a wonderful program. We loved all the pictures, having just a glimpse into your life for just a moment. See, Gil, you raising your hand over there, Gil? Did you want to say a little something real quick? Oh, just clap it. It really was. It was absolutely fantastic. We really, this is such a, Buffalo is about our sports, and to be able to have a glimpse into what you do and to hear your stories is really absolutely fantastic. And we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and sharing this all with us. So we wish you the best. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. We'll be sending out, in case you want to watch it again in slow-mo and see those pictures again, we'll be sending out the video to everybody who's registered at a later time. And we'll be, of course, in touch with our winner, Irv Stein, about his picture that he'd be interested in having from Bill. So thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and go Bills, go Sabres, go Bandits, go Buffalo.
Thanks, Stacy. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.